Hi everyone, thanks for your time. It's been a while since I did my last masterclass, but I'm happy to do it today on a very particular subject that continues to be one of the root causes of most problems in life, whether it's relationship, health problems, feeling happy or feeling fulfilled, even though you may have a lot in life. Anxiety, fear, regret, stress, these continue to be the biggest problems in humanity right now. So while it can get very complex as you break down each of these things, like fear can be a whole different topic, anxiety, regret, stress. But the whole point is over the last 9 years, we've learned certain commonalities between all of this. They're all interrelated. And when we look at some people who are very good at overcoming anxiety, some people who have a lot of fear, and some people where fear is just the right amount in their life. We have some people who get stressed out by really small things, and some people they just go through it like accept it, it's part of life. And regret. Everyone has some regret in their life, small, big, but some people don't allow themselves to move forward because they become victims to these emotions that we're talking about. So we're going to understand each of these, break it down, and select and learn certain techniques today that have worked for most of our patients around the world, because when we are treating people with disease or in any form, the most important thing to understand is while you look at nutrition, you look at medicine, you look at exercise, you also look at emotional wellness. Without addressing emotional wellness of a patient, the model of healing and recovery is highly incomplete, and people remain stuck in chronic illness. So to start off with, the word I want to use today is the word I use all the time: perception. Most of our suffering, most of our fear, most of anxiety is around our perception, the way we see it. If I put 5 problems in the audience right now, okay, 5 stressful problems that I think are stressful, everyone in the audience won't see it my way. Some people will say it's no big deal. Some people will get very stressed. Someone will say, okay, it's a challenge. Everyone will perceive it different. And that's why the word that I want to use today is perception. Many of you in the audience will have your own set of fears and anxieties and everything. That's okay. I'm not here to preach to you that there's only one way to overcome this. I'm over here to educate you and inspire you to go back home today and look at your stress, anxiety, and fear with a different lens, with a different perception. How have you been looking at it till now? And how are you going to look at it after this webinar? Is going to be your learning and is going to be your progress part. So to start off with, number one, everyone looks at stress and anxiety as something negative. That's where the first biggest problem is. The moment you've labeled anxiety and fear and stress as negative, every time it happens, you're going to have a negative outcome because you labeled it. It's like you label a food, oh, that tastes bitter. Okay, now mostly your mind will never move towards that food because you've labeled it as bitter, and bitter isn't nice. So even though that food may be good for you, but because you've labeled it, it now controls your choices and your behavior. So anxiety is not negative, fear is not negative, stress is not negative. In fact, it can add a certain amount of health to our life, and it can even keep us alive. It can help us make life-saving decisions. It can help our body move into certain nervous systems that can protect us from disease, from accidents, from making wrong decisions. So number one, none of this is negative. The words are not negative, but what can be negative is the emotion that we take from it and the behavior that we continue with, revolving around anxiety, fear, and regret. Let me give you an example of anxiety. It's not an emotion. Anxiety is a survival mechanism. We have the sympathetic nervous system and we have the parasympathetic nervous system. Our bodies need to oscillate between these two nervous systems to keep us alive, survival mode, help us digest our food, help us sleep deeply at night. So if I want to rest, I want to digest, I want to be calm, relaxed, I'm in the parasympathetic nervous system. If my body needs to be in stress or fight or flight response, I'm in the sympathetic nervous system. And that shows you that the body is okay with stress and anxiety and fear. It knows how to handle it. By swapping between these two, parts of your central nervous system. The point is, too much of anything becomes bad for us. Too much of anything becomes a poison. Too much of great food can also be bad for you. Too much of exercise, too much of sleep, too much of happiness, too much of anything. And that's why there's always a balance in nature, and there's a balance in us because we are products of nature. So, coming back to fear, anxiety, and stress. Anxiety is a survival mechanism. We are meant to get anxious about certain things. Like the moment we start eating food, we generate saliva. And saliva indicates to the body, the stomach, that Luke is going to eat now. While I start to produce hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes, my immune system also gets a signal to be on alert, because I could be eating a poison, a bacteria, a fungi, or something that my immune system has to be so alert that it can protect me. So you see, anxiety right now, or stress, a certain stress, these are good stressors in the human body. Our body has the intelligence of turning on the right switch and turning it off when the job is done. You're crossing a road. There's a car coming and it's moving really fast. You can't decide, should I run across the road or should I wait for the car to pass? You get anxious. This anxiety is a good thing because it's going to help you make a decision, whether you should run across the road or just wait patiently till the car passes. If you didn't get a feeling of anxiety, you could have possibly made the wrong decision. So anxiety is a driver for us. If I don't get anxious about the fact that I have a family to support, a livelihood to build, I won't care about work. I'll decide not to go into work today. I'll decide to not see my patients today. But that anxiety in small amounts that, hey, you've got to work hard, you've got to get your patients healthy, you've got to earn your money, that anxiety becomes a positive stressor in my life to do what I'm supposed to do. Students, of course, you got to get anxious before your exams, but you don't have to get uncontrollably anxious. Without anxiety, you're not going to study. Every student's gone through anxiety before exams. That's what makes us study, right? So there is nothing wrong with anxiety. It is how we have shaped our mindset and belief to handle it, to look at it, and whether we become slaves to it. Now, fear. I give you a poisonous snake to hold. You've never handled a snake before. You don't know anything. Fear protects you. Fear protects you. Should I touch the snake or not? Someone who's handled snakes, someone who's really brave, may not have fear and will hold a snake. But for someone else, that fear may actually protect them from getting bitten. So now is fear a bad thing? Absolutely not. It's when our fear starts to grow more and more because we're feeding it more. One fear becomes the second, and we're overthinking it now. And now this fear becomes a story and an illusion, which may never happen. The same thing with anxiety. Okay, there's anxiety, but I'm not doing anything about it. I'm overthinking it. I'm going into the past and say, oh, this happened in the past. Okay, what's going to happen in the future? And now the anxiety is growing more and more. So the whole point is anxiety in excess. Yes, fear in excess will create issues in your body. It'll increase inflammation, suppress your immune system, raise your blood sugar levels, your blood pressure, adrenal fatigue. You'll stay in the sympathetic nervous system longer than you should. Now you'll have indigestion problems because you're eating when you're stressed, when you should be eating when you're in the parasympathetic nervous system. So you see the connection of how anxiety and fear can cause all these problems. So when the body's constantly stressed, our immune system is constantly low. A word called homeostasis. The human body fights to be in homeostasis, where everything is normal, in harmony. The moment we're out of homeostasis because my blood pressure went up or my blood sugar levels went up, I'm out of homeostasis. Now there's disharmony. There's inflammation in the cells. My metrics and my blood work starts to change. But when I'm in homeostasis, everything is fine. So the idea and the secret to great health is, how can I stay in homeostasis? And when I'm out of homeostasis, how quickly can I come back into homeostasis? That's what we're going to learn about today. Now let's talk about regret. You have regret about didn't get the job, your relationship didn't work out, all of that stuff. It's fine. It happens to everyone. We can either become a slave to it or we can take a lesson from it. Most people never take the lesson because they're so emotionally consumed with the regret that they now become addicted with the negative emotions that come out of regret. You can get addicted to sadness. You can get addicted to anger, addicted to any behavior that continues to be practiced on repeat mode. You have regret in your life, feel bad 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, a week. Then, how are you moving forward? How are you moving forward? What lessons are you taking from that? Maybe it was never your fault. It could be the other person's fault completely. Still, that doesn't mean you stop your life. Go through the pain, go through the grief, whatever the emotions are, always face the emotions, but put a timeline on it. Because at some point, you're going to have to start changing how you feel by changing your perception of that. Okay, didn't work out. This is what I can learn from it and move on. Which brings me to the word action. The only solution to anxiety, fear, and stress is one word: action. When you're stuck in anxiety, it grows. When you're stuck in fear, it grows. When you're stuck in regret, it grows. If I'm standing in a puddle right now that's filled with dirty water, I want to get out of this water. The only way out is taking a step forward, backwards, sideways, over, jumping, which is an action. If I decide not to take an action, I'm stuck in the puddle. Now move into any part of your life that you're stuck. It's because you're not taking action. The moment you take the smallest bit of action, you are now moving. Anxiety is still there, but it's slowly going to start coming down as you take action because you're not stuck in the same place. But we stay stuck in the same place, overthinking, thinking of the worst possible situations that can have. The quickest way, let me give you an example. A mom is waiting at home for a child to come home from school. The school bus is late, they're stuck, no one knows what's happening. The mom gets anxious. Now she sits over there and says, I knew I shouldn't have put my son into school. I knew I should have got a driver and not sent him by school bus and all of that stuff. Or move to action. Can you call up our parents? Can you call up the school? What can I do to find out what is happening? Rather than sitting and making stories in your mind that may never come true, which are your fears, which will become illusions and stories. But the moment I take an action, guess what? I've distanced myself from the problem. I'm in solution mode. People always say overthinking is bad. Overthinking isn't bad. Overthinking the problem is bad because you know what the problem is. No matter how much you think about it, nothing's going to change. But if I channel the energy of overthinking the problem into overthinking the solution, that's so much better. It's all about perception, mindset, and channeling your thoughts, which is energy. Fine. So there are 10 things I can do now to find out where my child's school bus is. Start doing it. You're going to feel better about yourself. Anxiety is going to come down and you're in action. You're not stuck in the same place. The same thing with fear. The same thing with fear. We get fearful. Will people judge me? Will people say this? Will people do this? Will people do that? Am I making the right decision? Instead of finding out or sitting down, okay, if I do this, I'm afraid that this person is going to judge me. How much does this person matter in my life? Who is this? What? I'm taking actions. I'm moving straight towards the solution rather than, oh yeah, and then she tells someone about this and he tells someone about this and you know what's going to happen post that. The word is action, MTA, move to action. The moment you get the trigger of action, of stress, of anxiety, of fear, MTA, what is the first action I can take? It could be the smallest action, it could be the largest action, it could be one action, it could be many actions. But that is your first step out. If you were thinking I was going to talk about chanting and meditation and all of that stuff, yeah, they're important. They can calm us down, all of that stuff, but that's not your solution. When you open up your eyes after your chanting and meditation, your problem's still going to be there. Yes, the meditation can give you clarity and calm you down to see the problem differently and take action. Meditation brings clarity, and clarity of thought brings peace. Meditation alone does not bring you peace. You have 10 problems in a day, you meditate for 15 minutes. For 15 minutes, you're calm. You open your eyes, you're back in your day with 10 problems. But what I take from that 15 minutes, which is calmness, clarity of thought, is how I make these problems lesser and lesser. So the word is action. Now let's move to stress, because there's not too much of a difference around this. Most people really don't have stress in life. Most people have something or someone that they are resisting. Let me repeat that again. We don't have stress in life, most of us. We have something or someone that we're resisting. And in that process of resistance, it creates our stress and our suffering. Think about it. We're either resisting a circumstance, a person's behavior, what someone said, what someone did, which is out of our control. We're resisting it. It should be this way. She shouldn't have said that. I did so much. He did so much. We're resisting. In that resistance is our stress. So am I saying that we should all become doormats and just go with the flow? No. Yes, we should go with the flow, but we shouldn't be doormats. We should understand where to drop resistance. You're trying to change your wife, you're trying to change your husband, you're trying to change your kid, you're trying to change the teacher in your kid's class and their behavior and everything else. Is that within your control? The answer is no. So stop resisting. Move to action. There are other ways that you need to bring that change. Maybe you have to change. Maybe you got to communicate to the principal of the school or sit down and talk to your partner. So many different ways. But because you're resisting it, that no, it should be this way. He should know what to do. She should know what to do. There's your suffering and your stress. You're in a city like Mumbai, Delhi, or most cities in the world today have traffic. You know it. There's nothing to resist about it anymore. You know that Mumbai city has traffic. There's no point getting in the car, blaming the city, blaming the government, blaming overpopulation. Resistance, you're creating stress and suffering. You know that there is traffic. Stop resisting it. Can you make changes? Maybe shift closer to your office, change your residence. I mean, there are action points. If you can, do it. Makes your life easier. If not, your only solution is to stop resisting. You want your partner, or your kid, or your friend to love you in a particular way. It's impossible. No one can love you the way you want them to. But you can take an action. You can express it. I like it when you say this. I like it when you do this. I feel loved when this happens. Rather than sitting there assuming that someone has to know how you like to be loved or served or whatever it is. Resistance. Again. So when you understand resistance, you understand that most of our stress is built out of what we resist in life and who we resist in life. Are there actions to take? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. There is an action to take at every single point in your life. Every single point in your life. The ones who take that action are the ones who slowly diffuse their fears, anxiety, and their stresses. The ones who sit, complain, whine, blame, overthink are stuck. You want to move out of stuck into action. Now, let's talk about fears, because fears are real. Let me tell you some of the fears I face. Okay, I like talking about myself because everyone has different fears, different solutions. I don't have solutions for everyone, but I have a concept. So every time I see a cancer patient, I think this could be my dad, this could be my mom, this could be my daughter, this could be me, this could be my loved ones. Every time. Today I had a young boy with cancer, fit boy, active, doing everything right in the book of health. Leukemia at the age of 13. Absolutely no reasons why. Could be a gene we don't know. Not fearful. Oh no. So even if I'm taking care of my daughter and my loved ones, it can just happen. Now we're living in fear. It can happen every time, every way. How do I handle this fear? Simple. I remind myself, someone else's story doesn't have to be mine. Can I learn from this patient? And if I find something out of place that could have possibly, like I'm leaning more towards extreme sleep deprivation and family separation in this one case, immense stress and sleep deprivation, possible cancer causer. Now, how do I educate people around me the importance of sleep and the importance of looking after stress? Because I've learned from the case in front of me. So I break down my fears by taking certain actions. And sometimes you still feel fearful, And then I pray. And then I realize that, okay, it doesn't have to become my story. That's my way of handling fears. Sometimes our fears start to grow. The fear of death. Am I afraid of losing my parents? Again, my story. I was always afraid. When I was a child, I would walk to my dad's room, my mom's room. I mean, obviously they slept in the same room. I would walk into my sister's room, and I would put my ear next to their nostrils just to hear them breathe. I would stand and watch to see if their chest was rising. I just wanted them to be alive because maybe they could die in their sleep. And over time, as I grew up, I said, this is not the way I want to live. So I started doing something that one of my teachers in school told me about. Face your worst fear. So I started to face it in my mind. We know everyone's going to die. We just don't know when. So I'm facing my fear. When they die. So since that day, I'm always prepared for my parents to die. I'm prepared to the capacity I think I am. Of course, I'll be sad, I may cry, all of that, but I'm prepared. It's not going to come like a shock. There's that. I accept it. It's life. Everyone's going to die. I'm prepared because I faced the worst fear in my mind. And like that, we can take certain fears and ask ourselves, what is the worst that can happen? They're going to die. Everyone's going to die. What does that teach me to do? Live an abundant life. Call them more often. Be there for them. Celebrate birthdays. That's all I can do. Everything else is beyond my control. So like that, anything that's your worst fear in life, ask yourself and train yourself. What is the worst that can happen? Face it in your mind. Rehearse it in your mind. But not many of us want to think about these things. But when we face it in our mind, that's what changes everything. We get strength. We get courage. We don't completely crumble. We may, but we bounce back faster. We will not become a victim to that emotion completely. We will not let it disable us. So that's a point when it comes to fear. Face your worst fears. Again, that is an action that you take. Well, I have a fear my parents are going to die. And you try to suppress it, drink it, smoke it out of your head, shop, all of that stuff. The point is, face it in your mind. Yes, they are going to die. What is the best? What actions come out of that with the knowing that our loved ones are going to die? How do we choose to live our lives today? Again, translates to one word, action. It's never going to be easy, but we still continue to do our best because it is going to happen. Someone comes and says, look, I'm fearful I'm going to get cancer. My mom had cancer. My sister had, now what do we do? Okay, we don't know if you're going to get cancer, but we do know that these are the things that you need to start doing right now because that's the only thing in our control. Start sleeping better, your food, stop smoking, do this, action. Again, action. And because the person is doing this, now she gets that hope in her mind that, okay, I'm doing the right things. I can be. But if the person is not taking action, she remains a victim of the fear that she's seeing right in front of her. Her own family going through cancer and anxiety. And every time someone in society talks about anxiety, cancer, her anxiety will grow more and more because we're not emotionally grounded by doing the work that we need to move to action. When we have anxiety, fear, regret, of course, we can't handle it on our own all the time. While we can get shrinks and therapists and emotional counselors, that's all good. Whatever works for you, do it. In life, build a circle around you, a small circle, but a very powerful circle of people who truly love you and are there for you. Love doesn't have to come from a partner all the time. It can come from a child, it could come from a parent, it could come from a friend, it could come from anyone. But you want to build that circle. There are some people who are very selective. No, all the love has to come from my husband. All the love has to come from my wife. And then you're dealing with a case of ego and pride. Whoever said that's your definition and that's how you want it, but it doesn't have to come that way. It can come from a pet. The point is we're losing focus. We're looking at love and support, wherever it comes from, in the right way and the legal way, is what we want to have in our circle. The point is have a circle. Nurture a circle. Sometimes we already have that circle, but we're trying to chase other people to impress, other people to please. And over time, we get so lost in that journey that we lose the circle that we have around us. Or that circle becomes weaker because we're not giving it the attention and time that we should be, because we're giving it to society and people who don't matter, trying to impress them, trying to be someone. In life, you need a small circle. Because I'll tell you why. It's not because Luke's saying this. It's because, number one, we all know Everyone doesn't have to love us. Everyone doesn't have to see what we say as being right. Everyone doesn't have to say good things to us. No one has to. That's how life is. But when your circle is small and true, you can find fulfillment in that circle. That support and fulfillment is a powerful drug when you go through days of anxiety, fear, regret, negativity. You feel safe. You feel understood. The missing human emotion today is understanding. Everyone has a different definition of love. For me, I feel loved when I'm understood. For me, that's love. For someone else, it may be something else. But when you are understood, you feel accepted. The emotion of every human being, indirectly or directly, unconsciously or subconsciously, is to look for acceptance. Everyone's doing it. You're looking for acceptance from your boss, from your partner, your kids looking for acceptance from you. You're looking for acceptance from everyone. That's a human emotion. So build a circle that is small and true. And if you have that circle, treasure it. Don't lose it by trying to be and put energy in people that don't matter, events that don't matter, things that don't matter. Journaling, very powerful. Every time you're anxious or fear, start making a note. You'll find a pattern that when this happens, I get fearful or anxious. Today, I felt fearful or anxious. Let me go to my journal. Oh, I went through these. So now you have certain action points that you can work. You know what your triggers are. Bad news is a trigger. Health scare is a trigger. And now this tells you what to do. So you can start taking those little actions. So journaling is super, super powerful. I want to touch upon resistance again, okay? Because it's powerful. It is called the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance becomes the path of most allowance. This is something by someone called Abraham Hicks. A beautiful line. The path of resistance, least resistance, becomes the path of most allowance. Because I stop resisting something, I allow more in my life. Let's go back into a simple boy-girl relationship, or any gender relationship for that matter. It doesn't matter, okay? Any partner will see in their dating days, the more you chase, the more elusive it becomes. The more you resist something, the more it persists in your life. When you drop resistance, doesn't mean you're giving up. You're dropping resistance of the things that are out of control. Things start happening. You stop chasing, that person suddenly starts to come back into your life. The point is, adopt the path of least resist. What are you resisting today? I'm resisting, oh, I want to be right. You don't always have to be right. That's ego and pride. My word is the final word. No, it isn't. That's your ego and pride that wants to make you feel that you're always right. So your ego and pride comes in between the path of least resistance. When you just say that this is out of my control, I'm just going to flow, because there is nothing you can do. No amount of anxiety, thinking, fear can solve your problem. Can it? No, only action can, but it's out of your control. The only action you can take, acceptance, letting go, flow. If there's something you can do, do it. If there's nothing you can do, you flow. And by dropping that resistance, your anxiety, stress, regrets, and everything we're talking about comes down. What else is driving anxiety in today's society and fear? Social media and comparison. Your life is perfect right now until you scroll down on social media and realize someone has something more than you. You think you're handsome and you're pretty, and now you scroll down social media and you realize that there's someone else prettier and more handsome than you. Now you feel inadequate. Now you start to feel inadequate. But 5 minutes ago, before you started scrolling, you felt so good about yourself. The problem was the comparison. You unconsciously, subconsciously, or consciously compare every time you're on social media. No one is enlightened not to compare. It's happening subconsciously, consciously, or unconsciously. That's the job of social media. So you use it more. Then you start looking for validation. The whole point is, do we get off social media? Absolutely not. We learn to use it the right way. We learn how much of time to spend on it. And sometimes we get off social media If it's wrecking our life, we take a break. We take a digital social media detox break. And I can guarantee you one thing. Try it for 3 to 5 days. Mostly, you'll never want to get back on social media. Why? Because you feel so good. But our work is on social media. We learn from social media. So then it teaches us to have that good feeling. These are the action points. Only check out accounts that I want to. Put a timeline. Don't mindlessly scroll. Be alert when you're taking in stuff from social media to remind yourself that a lot of it is fake. And many of these things may never happen to us. Someone else's story. That's how it is. So social media and comparison are one of the biggest drivers. Let's add society, in case you're not on social media. You're looking around at people all the time, what they have, what handbags they're carrying, what cars they're driving. It's all going in your mind. If you are not emotionally grounded, if you don't feel fulfilled, you will always feel inadequate. It doesn't mean if I see someone with a nice car and I say, wow, I want to get that, that can inspire me to work harder, get it the right way. Or it can depress me and say, oh, so rich, these rich people have money and I don't have anything and feel horrible about myself. Again, perception, pure perception. So when we learn to change our perception, everything changes. Before we end the session, let's talk about the neural pathways. If you have negative thoughts, how can you break that pattern? Because everyone gets negative thoughts. I was with a spiritual leader somewhere right before the pandemic. And I asked him, a lot of you would have seen me do videos with him. I said, hey, do you get lustful thoughts? Do you think about girls? Do you think about sex and stuff like that? He said, absolutely, yes. What do you think I am? Do you think I'm God? I said, of course I am. I have a human mind. So he said, it's what I do with it. It's what I do with it. The moment I get those thoughts, I don't entertain them anymore. I move on to a different thought. So if I'm thinking about something negative right now, like, oh, every time I eat food, I think I'm going to get fat. So every time I eat food, there's a neural pathway that when Luke eats food, he thinks he's going to get fat. And now that pattern gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So now after a while, every time, even if it's a bowl of salad that you're going to eat, you start feeling like you're going to get fat. How do I change that? Or how do I change a negative feeling? A feeling of grief, a feeling of sadness. I'm sick right now. I'm feeling this way. I'm not motivated to get better because my thinking is making me more and more negative. You create a new neural pathway. How do you do that? Every time I eat food, okay, I enjoy my food and food nourishes my body. So the next time I'm going to eat my food and I think the negative thought comes, it is going to come. I'm going to replace it. Once the thought is over, I'm not going to let it loop. I'm going to say, but this food is great for my body and for my hair and my skin, and I'm grateful for it. And the next time I do it, and the next time, in a couple of days, a new neural pathway would have been formed over the old one. That's how habits are built. So every time I say, I'm used to judging someone, or I see that, I just hate this person, he's whatever. But the next time I say, that's a negative thought, it's affecting me. I don't like this person, but everyone's different. I don't know what his past was. Let me do my best. I'm building a new neural pathway. And like brushing your teeth, all of you never forget to brush your teeth because it's in your subconscious mind, built with the practice of repetition. So the more I keep repeating a negative way of thinking of a particular subject, person, thing, the stronger it's going to become. And that's going to become you after a while. Our belief systems, our mindsets over the years are built because we constantly think that way. But today when I'm telling people, type 2 diabetes can be reversed. But people for the longest time were programmed by the medical world, everyone, that you're on medicine for a lifetime. It can't be reversed. But now we're creating new neural pathways in people by showing them it can be reversed. And people are now believing it. What was holding them back? Their mindsets, their belief systems. So coming back to anxiety, fear, and regret, the only solution forward is action. What action can I take? Sometimes when you're very anxious, break it down. Is my anxiety because I'm comparing myself? Have I set too high a benchmark? Does my benchmark equal someone else's benchmark in life? No, my benchmark should be the one that's set for me. You have to break it down, because if you don't break it down, you become a slave to it. When you become a slave or a victim to anxiety and fear, that's the only thing in your life that continues to grow. And that comes with all negative feelings, immunity, high blood pressure and everything else that we're talking about. There are many other reasons for high blood pressure and everything I spoke about, but this is the connection between anxiety and disease. A little anxiety, fabulous, healthy for us. A little stress, super healthy for us. Chronic anxiety, chronic stress, chronic negativity, disastrous at every level. And I don't have to tell you that because you know how you feel when you're chronically stressed and anxious. You don't feel good. If you don't feel good, your cells and you are not working in harmony with each other. A benchmark of great health, even though you may have a lot of negativity in your life, things may not be working out for you, but if you can go to bed saying that, yeah, it's not, but I feel good. I feel good as a person. Things are not going well, but I feel good. That person is going to be super healthy despite the stress and negativity they have in their life. It is all about feeling and all about perception. Every feeling impacts trillions of cells in the human body. We all know that. So the more time I spend in negativity, anxiety, that is how it is affecting our health. So now your homework is very simple. Write it down. What are the things that make you anxious? Fears. How can I face them in my mind? And every time you get anxious, in the next moment, if you get anxious about something, what action can I take? That is your first step out of anxiety. It may not solve your problem, but the movement from where you were stuck is your first step towards progress. And as you keep practicing this, that's how you get better and better and better at it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes there'll be something disastrous that happens that creates so much of anxiety. Trust that you'll be okay. Anything can happen. Trust that you'll be okay. And for that, we practice mindfulness. We try to be grounded. But when we're in a state of anxiety and fear, we can't be grounded because we're in the sympathetic nervous system. We can't, even if we want to. To be grounded, at the end of my day, I have to learn how to relax. In between my day, relax, assess, how am I feeling right now? Because it's only in the parasympathetic nervous system that you have clarity of thought to actually sometimes help you take the actions that are right for you. So let me just quickly have a look at the chat box. You'll all have your homework. I'm going to have a look at all of this stuff and see if there are any questions over here. So you mean we need to start overthinking the possible solutions? No, you don't need to start overthinking. You need to start thinking. That's all. No one can really measure something. If I'm thinking on a client case, sometimes it could take me 1 hour. It could take me 3 hours. It depends on the case. So don't give it a name. But I'm saying if you're in the habit of overthinking a problem, just think what would happen if you put that energy into a situation. For whoever asked, when will this get over? I don't even understand what your question is. It's going to get over when it gets over. Okay, I'm planning to join a college, but every time I think of it, I somehow feel I am not prepared and I might quit. Okay, that's a valid feeling. Every fear is valid. But now ask yourself, what action am I going to take? If you don't take any action, you're not going to get into any college. You're not even going to start applying. So prepare for the worst and live with the trust that whichever college you get into will be the right college for you. Many of us in life think that we make all the decisions and we have the right decisions. Let me tell you, in most cases, if you really reflect deeply and spiritually, life is deciding for us almost all the time by sometimes not giving us what we want or moving us out of one situation or one relationship or one job into another. We may react emotionally to it, but in most cases, you will find it was the right thing for you. So you're planning to join a college. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? You won't get in. Are there other colleges you can join? Of course. How many colleges can you apply at the same time? So if one doesn't work out, you still have another one. But you don't have to label yourself or your self-worth if you don't get into a particular college. There was a time, 9 years, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about, I think when I was 22, I wanted to join Emirates. I wanted to be a flight purser. I wanted it so badly. I would go to church every day and pray and pray and pray. I went for the interview. I didn't get it. When I look back today, I was never meant to get it. And I'm so happy I didn't get it. Life decided that for me. So the point is, we have to understand that life decides many, many, many things for us. So go ahead, but just sitting and thinking about, I may not be prepared, I may quit. You'll never know. And then you live with that regret. Many of our regrets are lack of action. So go ahead. It's okay to fail. You know, a lot of people today not in relationships are scared of love is because they don't want to try. They're afraid of rejection. They're so scared of rejection that they don't even want to try. And that's why they're without love. That's why a lot of them choose to be single, because they don't want to overcome rejection. Of course, people could be hurt, betrayed, all of that, and that prepares you, but it prepares you to be smarter. It doesn't prepare you not to love again. But the point is, life is with rejection. Life is with loss. Life is with failure. It's all, except that right now, like death. There is going to be all of these things in everyone's life. But if we think it can never happen to us, that's when your own expectations become your biggest enemy. Because when it happens to you, you'll emotionally crumble. How could it happen to me? Why not? You're human. It happens to other people. It can happen to you. So you see, it comes down to perception. Move through life knowing, not in a pessimistic way, that anything can happen to any of us. We could lose love tomorrow. We could get disease. We may close down our business. Our college application may not work out. It can happen to everyone. Now, knowing this, you face your worst fear, that it can happen. What's the next best action? Maybe I'll diversify my investments. Maybe I'll put in 10 applications instead of one application. But I will not quit. And I will only know when I try. So thank you, everyone, for your patience and going through all of this. Okay, let me see. I think we have a couple of other questions. What does one do? Reactive, one takes action, but it still doesn't work. Break the expectation. Why do you think every action of yours has to give you something that you want? The purpose of action is to move away from being stuck. If it doesn't work, what's the second action? What's the third action? I have some patients who come and say, Luke, I've gone into cancer and come out of it 4 times. I want to give up right now. And I'm like, what if the 5th time is your final time? We don't know what's going to happen when. It doesn't mean we don't stop trying. So when we live with expectation, that becomes our biggest enemy. So if the first action doesn't work, take the second, take the 10th action. But remember, by giving up, by quitting, okay, it's not solving your problem either, right? So now, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be answering any medical questions. You can reach out to our team for help. I think pretty much everyone's understood everything. I don't have any more time right now, but thank you so much for your time, and we will share the recording. Have a great evening.